Taehyung sat at the same place they met for the first time. It had been 2 days since Ryan walked out of Taehyung's life, and it felt like years to him. The moment she left, he realized how empty everything had become, how hollow his success felt without her by his side. He kept thinking and thinking until he decided to make things right, and with that thought in his mind, the next thing he knew was him standing under the moonlit sky, gripping a bright pink balloon that said sorry in big, messy letters. He was determined to make things right. His eyes were focused solely on the second floor balcony, the one he knew all too well. It felt just like old times, except now his heart was racing more from nervousness than excitement. He had been climbing up her balcony since he was in his struggling days. He used to surprise her with her favorite snacks, and doing the same today felt nostalgic to him. He adjusted the paper bag in his hand, the familiar crinkle of Ryan's favorite snacks, a small comfort. In the other hand, the bright pink balloon swayed gently in the night breeze. He was an idiot, yes, but he was going to make this right. With a determined breath, Taehyung grabbed hold of the nearby trellis. Climbing it used to be a breeze. But now his lifestyle of fancy cars and easy living had left him out of practice. Halfway up, he grunted, legs trembling slightly as he pulled up himself. Come on, Tay, don't fall now, he muttered under his breath. He finally reached the edge of the balcony, sweat beading on his forehead. For a moment, he hung there awkwardly. Trying to hoist himself over without making too much noise. His foot slipped on the edge, and before he knew it, he landed in a heap on the balcony floor, the balloon smacking him right in the face. Damn it, he whispered, rubbing his sore elbow. Great start. For a moment he wondered if she'd heard him. Did anyone hear that? He peeked over the edge of the balcony, scanning for any signs of guards or worse, her parents, but the mansion was silent. Breathing a sigh of relief, Taehyung slowly stood, brushing himself off. The balloon bobbed cheerfully in his hand as if mocking his clumsy entrance. He stifled a laugh. This was ridiculous, but for her he'd do anything. He tiptoed towards the glass doors of her bedroom. He could see the soft glow of her lamp illuminating the room. She was probably curled up with a book, like she always did before bed. For a moment he stood there staring. She looked peaceful, but he knew better. He knocked softly on the glass door leading to her room, heart racing. Wine glanced at the window and her eyes widened. At first she was shocked, but few moments later her expression turned unreadable. She opened the door slowly, arms crossed, staring at him with a cool, detached look. She said flatly, her voice calm but distant, "What are you doing here?" He offered her the snacks and the balloon with a sheepish grin, trying to lighten the mood. "I bought peace offerings, snacks, and an apology balloon." She glanced at the balloon with raised eyebrows, then back at him. A balloon. "I thought it'd be cute." He trailed off, his usual charm faltering under her unimpressed gaze. Vine sighed and turned away, leaving the door open. He took that as an invitation and stepped inside, carefully closing the door behind him. "Look, Ryan, I messed up. I said things I didn't mean, and I know I hurt you. I'm really, really sorry," he said, stepping closer. Ryan didn't look at him, still facing the window. "Sorry isn't enough, Taehyung. You don't just get to say it and expect everything to go back to normal." His heart sank. He had expected her to be upset, but this coldness, it was crushing. He realized that winning her back wouldn't be easy, but he wasn't going to give up. I know it's not enough, he whispered, gently placing the snacks on her bed, but I'm going to prove it to you, even if it takes all night. She finally turned to look at him, her expression still indifferent. Do whatever you want. I'm not in the mood for games. He winked at her and just looked at him with her unimpressed face before telling him. The door is right there. Mom, Dad are not at home, so go like a normal human being unless you want to be adventurous like always and break a bone or two. And just like that, the apology marathon started. Day 2, the coffee apology. The next morning, Taehyung showed up at her favorite coffee shop where she usually grabbed her morning brew. She was already in the line when she heard the barista called her name. Wine, your usual is ready. She furrowed her brow in confusion. I didn't even order yet. The barista smiled, handling her a steaming cup of coffee. Scribbled on the cup in black marker was, I'm sorry for being a complete idiot. Can we talk? Tay. Wine glanced over her shoulder and saw him sitting by the window, his eyes full of hope. She picked up the coffee, walked past him without a word, and headed out the door. But the small smile tugging at the corner of her lips didn't go unnoticed. Day 3, the flower petals apology. On the third day, Ryan came home to find a trail of rose petals leading from her front door to her backyard. The scent of roses filled the atmosphere, and as she followed the petals, she found herself standing in the center of her backyard where an envelope lay on the table. Inside, there was a single note. Every petal is an apology. If I could give you a garden, I would. Taehyung. He scoffed. It was cringe and cheesy, though she couldn't deny the warmth blooming in her chest. She had to admit he was trying, but still, she wasn't ready to let him off the hook yet. Day 4, the Serenade Apology. That night, Taehyung pulled out all the stops. It was late and Ryan was getting ready for bed. When she heard the faint sound of a guitar strumming outside her window. She walked over, pulling back the curtains to find Taehyung standing below, holding his guitar, his face illuminated by the street lamp. Are you seriously going to? Before she could finish, he began to sing. The song was soft, sweet, and completely about her. Every word was an apology wrapped in melody. And as much as she wanted to stay mad, she couldn't deny the way her heart fluttered when he sang her name. When the song ended, Taehyung looked up at her with those pleading eyes. She rolled her eyes and let out a small, sarcastic laugh. Nice try, Tae, before turning back to her cold self. Day 5, the playlist apology. Ryan woke up the next morning to a text from Taehyung. Hey, I made you a playlist. Each song is an apology in its own way. Listen to it when you're in the mood to forgive a guy who's been a total idiot. She sighed, knowing she shouldn't indulge him, but her curiosity got the better of her. She clicked on the link and began listening. The first song was one of their old favorites, the one they used to dance to in his tiny apartment. Then came a mix of sappy love songs and upbeat tracks with lyrics that practically screamed, I am sorry. By the end of the playlist, Vine found herself smiling, her defenses slowly crumbling. Day 6, the puppy apology. On the sixth day, there was a knock at her door. Ryan opened it to find Taehyung standing there holding the tiniest, most adorable puppy she had ever seen. Okay, now this is just unfair, she said, trying not to squeal at the sight of the fluffy little ball of fur. I know, Taehyung grinned, but you always said you wanted a puppy, and I figured if words won't convince you, maybe this little guy will. He held out the puppy, its tiny tail wagging furiously. There was a small tag hanging from its collar that read, I'm sorry, please forgive my dumb owner. Love, puppy. Vi narrowed her eyes at him but took the puppy into her arms, her heart melting. You really think a puppy will fix everything? No, Taehyung said, his expression softening. But maybe he can help. Day 7, the final. A week had passed and Taehyung had tried every trick in the book, from sweet gestures to heartfelt words. He had exhausted every possible way to say I'm sorry, but still Ryan hadn't completely forgiven him. On the seventh day, Ryan walked out of her house expecting to see yet another one of Taehyung's creative attempts at an apology. But instead, the street was empty, no flowers, no serenades, no surprise. She felt a strange pang of disappointment as she went about her day. Maybe he had finally given up. Maybe it was really over. That night, as she sat at the same place they first met, staring at the stars, she heard the soft rustling of footsteps behind her. She turned to see Taehyung standing there with no gifts, no balloons, no grand gestures, just him. I didn't bring anything this time, he said quietly, taking a step closer. I figured I've tried everything, except for just being honest. Van stayed silent, watching him carefully. I'm sorry, Ryan, he continued, his voice raw with emotion. I'm sorry for pushing you away. I'm sorry for taking you for granted. I've spent the last week trying to apologize in every way I could think of. But none of it means anything unless you know that I love you. More than the fame, more than the success. I love you. And if you give me another chance, I promise I'll never let you feel like you're anything less than the most important person in my life. For a long moment, Wyan didn't say anything. She simply stared at him, her heart racing as she took in his words. Then finally she sighed. You really are an idiot, Taehyung. He winced, his shoulders slumping in defeat. Yeah, I know. But she stood up, crossing the small space between them. You're my idiot. And with that, she wrapped her arms around him, pulling him into a tight hug. Taehyung exhaled in relief, burying his face in her hair. And just like that, after a week of heartfelt, ridiculous, and downright adorable apologies, Van finally gave in. Because at the end of the day, it wasn't about the snacks, the flowers, or even the puppy. It was about the fact that Taehyung never stopped trying. Relationships are all about two imperfect people refusing to give up on each other. And with that being said, this is the end. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, like, share, comment, subscribe, and make sure to follow me on Instagram. Bye bye.